So, ironically, the SEC might be delivered the final nail in the coffin by a person that most people in the crypto industry would consider to actually be a scammer, and that person is Richard Hart. Now, we can't confirm he's a scammer, but I mean, I don't think most people in the crypto industry, besides like the Hexians, would actually have a high opinion of him. But you know what? I don't care. Even though I don't believe in Richard Hart myself, I hope he pwns the SEC, because if they lose against Hex, they can just forget about regulating crypto altogether. I mean, they've taken L's against Ripple, Binance, and now Hex. And they've just taken an L against Tron as well. So it gets worse and worse for them. First, they take an L against Ripple. Okay, that's a highly reputable company with a huge war chest that can actually fight you. Okay, they own one of the top 5 cryptos out there, and they're a legit company that actually other companies work with. Okay, you lose against them, excusable. Then you lose against Binance, and BNB is no longer a security. Let's think about Binance. Out of all the major coins out there, I would actually guess that Binance is the one that's most likely to be a security, because this is a coin where they literally use company funds to buy back coins, to burn them, to increase the price. You know what that sounds like? That sounds exactly like a stock buyback. So now they're no longer a security. That is a huge, huge L. And then Tron gets, they didn't get their case dismissed, but the judge basically says, hey, they can proceed with the dismissal action when the SEC basically filed against that dismissal action. You lost against Justin Sun. Think about that for a moment. You lost against Justin Sun, the person that claimed to be the CEO of Ripple when he was only an intern at Ripple. The guy that no one in crypto actually trusts. Now, I do actually think Tron is being overlooked, and I don't think you should judge Tron based on Justin Sun alone. Tron is making a lot of money, and I do actually think it's a fair investment for this particular bull run. But that aside, you still lost to Justin Sun. Now, it's His Excellency Justin Sun, but it is still Justin Sun. And now, Richard Hart is trying to dismiss his lawsuit against you. And while if I was a betting man, I would still bet on the SEC to win this one, because let's not forget, Richard Hart has been running from the feds for 2 years. He's actually been out of the country, in other countries, or on a boat somewhere. So imagine you're asking someone else this: why do you not come back to the United States? Oh, I've been spending the last 3 years running away from the feds, because I said myself that my project from the outside looked like a Ponzi scheme, but if you really look into the details, it's not a Ponzi scheme. And I've just been avoiding the feds so they won't arrest me. But don't worry, my stuff is not a scam. Yeah, I don't know about that one. But either way, whether it's a scam or not, at this point, I don't care. I've had enough of the SEC. So I want Richard Hart to pwn the SEC, because if you lose against Ripple, Binance, Tron, and Hex, you've basically just completely lost, and no one's going to fear the SEC anymore. You can just give the power to the CFTC, or maybe they'll even start treating it as a currency. And that's probably eventually what's going to happen, because both sides of the aisle, both Democratic and Republican, are becoming more and more pro-crypto. Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, the two power players in the Democratic Party, and probably Pelosi's successor, Hakeem Jeffries, are all pretty much pro-crypto. The Republican side is completely pro-crypto. Harris is looking to be more pro-crypto. So the whole anti-crypto thing is essentially just Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler. And that's not going to hold against both the Democrat and the Republican Party. So at this point, Richard Hart, and this lawsuit is actually really, really interesting. He actually proposed to dismiss a $1 billion securities lawsuit. The SEC hit back at Richard Hart's bid to dismiss the lawsuit, claiming it has sway over him as his illicit security sales targeted the U.S. And he's like, I've been out of the country. They didn't really specifically target anyone, but there were obviously U.S. customers engaged, and he's not going to be able to convince everyone that he didn't know there were U.S. customers engaged, because everyone who has half a brain knows that some U.S. customers were actually engaged. So basically, his dismissal motion filed on August 22nd, that was shared with the SEC on April 8th, Hart, real name Richard J. Schuler, claimed the regulator has no sway over him as he lives abroad and is not alleged to have set foot in the United States during the relevant period. It added that the SEC didn't allege Hart engaged in any conduct directed at at the US and didn't claim any US-based entities, employees, contracts, payment accounts, marketing efforts, or travel associated with Mr. Hart. So essentially, Richard J. Schuler, did not really have any contact with the United States during this time period. So he's like, the SEC has no jurisdiction against them. So the SEC is trying to oppose Richard Hart's bid to dismiss. I still think the SEC probably will win this one, but there is a non-zero chance, a distinctly non-zero chance, maybe as high as 30 or 40%, that Richard Hart might win this lawsuit. And if he gets this dismissed, then, like pretty much any company that's based outside the United States when it comes to dealing with crypto is not going to be in the crosshairs of the SEC. Any company that has ICOs outside the United States, all that stuff, SEC can't really do anything about. And it would be a big, big face-losing move for the SEC, and that would definitely tank Gary Gensler's reputation as head of the SEC some more. And you know what I say? Go right on ahead. Tank his reputation even more than it is right now, at least with respect to crypto. Because at this point, I just want the SEC to lose as many crypto cases as possible. So whoever the new commissioner is, he will not do anything else to actually bother crypto too much anymore. He will willingly give power over the CFTC, unlike Gary Gensler, who is not actually willing to do that. The other thing I want to talk about is Sony does have an L2 chain. They are going to use CCIP with this chain. They are using the Optimism tech stack. Now, that does not mean they're using Optimism. Base uses the Optimism tech stack, but it doesn't really affect Optimism's price. I do think there'll be some FOMO that goes into this, but I think it'll end up benefiting Chainlink and CCIP some more. So Sony unveils Web3 division and Layer 2 network. Sony Block Solutions Labs and StartTel Labs is from the Defiant, but other places have actually reported on this too. Will soon launch a testnet for the upcoming Sonium Layer 2 network. So it's called Sonium. Announced on August 23rd, the newly created Sony Block Solutions Labs will lead all of Sony's blockchain and Web3 initiatives. They also revealed that the division is developing Sonium, a public Ethereum Layer 2 network in partnership with StartTel Labs, the development team behind A-Star. But obviously the Layer 2 network doesn't really have too much to do with A-Star. They're leveraging Optimism's OP stack, but that doesn't mean they're actually using OP. But they are going to use the new blockchain unites Web3 projects and infrastructure pioneers, including A-Star Network, Circle, Chainlink, Alchemy, and The Graph. I do actually think they are using Chainlink's API for the time being, at least. They might use more in the future. They're also going to use Circle's USDC. So I think the main beneficiaries of this are obviously Circle, Sony, and Chainlink. Optimism will probably get some hype FOMO, but it shouldn't really directly affect Optimism. So that's another new exciting Layer 2. And that's probably a specialty use for Sony, but it might actually eat up some market share from other Layer 2 networks as well. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.